Hello and welcome to Evolve Yourself podcast. I'm Lahaina. I'm an embodiment and confidence coach, and I'll be your host today. I'm here to share my learnings and life experiences in order to create thought provoking conversations in a variety of topics from healing and coaching modalities to health hacks and entrepreneurial tips. This is a place for inspiration, sharing, learning, questioning, and exploration to lead you to your next breakthrough and the path to evolve yourself. So today I'm here to share about my ayahuasca journey and two ceremonies. So when you hear this word, you might have no idea what I'm talking about. That's completely fine. You might be, what the heck is this? I will get there. You might have heard about it and you might be really curious or intrigued. You actually might be searching for your own ayahuasca ceremony. Or for me, I've known about this for so long. I can't even remember the first time that I heard about it. And it was just nothing out of the ordinary. And so, yeah, a lot of people in my circle have already experienced or want to experience ayahuasca, and it's a common topic. So I'm here to share with you guys. It might be still taboo, it might still be something out of the normal. And that's what I love this podcast. Let's get on to it. So, what is ayahuasca? Ayahuasca is a brew made from the leaves of a shrub along with the stalks of a vine. So other plants and ingredients can be added as well. This is a drink used for spiritual and religious purposes by ancient Amazonian tribes and is still used as a sacred beverage by some religious communities in Brazil and North America. So traditionally, a shaman or a very experienced healer who leads this ayahuasca ceremony will prepare and administer this brew in their setting, right? And my first question when I knew about this is like, how did the shamans knew how to combine these ingredients? Apparently, these plants were very far apart in the Amazonian jungle. And that's when I start to have proof that there is a source of intelligence much bigger than us, right? I hope you're with me in this because I have complete trust that the shamans would receive some sort of guidance and instructions, right, from their higher self, universe, God, higher source of not even intelligence. It's just it's unexplainable, right? So for me, that was a very first thing. Like, how did the shamans actually get to do this? And not just this, like everything that they used to do back then, right? So how does ayahuasca work? The main ingredient of ayahuasca, the main ingredients have hallucinogenic properties, including DMT. And DMT is a psychedelic substance that occurs naturally in the plant. DMT is also called the spiritual molecule. There was a book, I think, written in the 60s, because DMT is the sort of substance that when people experience, allow us to have that connection again with source, universe, something bigger than us. It's really intense. And I also read somewhere that our body contains DMT and is released in our brain when we die. So again, is the spiritual molecule, because apparently it helps us go from this planet, to the next, wherever we're going. So how is ayahuasca used? It is strongly recommended ayahuasca only be taken when supervised by a very experienced shaman. So if you're looking for ceremony, if you're looking to experience this amazing tea, make sure you have a referral, make sure you know where you're going is a safe place, you're going to be well taken care of. And yeah, when you drink the tea, it leads you to an altered state of consciousness, and it can last for many, many hours, so depending on the settings. So the ceremonies are usually held at night, and I'll share with you guys more about the setting for my ceremony. and the brew is prepared and blessed by the shaman leading the ceremony, and the ayahuasca is offered to participants. And it can be various doses as well. Most people start to feel the effects within 20 to 60 minutes. And it should be noted that there are some side effects, such as purging, which is vomiting. Some people might need to go to the bathroom throughout the night. And then purging can be also yawning, crying, sweating, burping. There are many forms that our body is experiencing and sometimes releasing trauma and releasing what needs to be done. And the potential benefits is that many people who have taken our ayahuasca claim that the experience leads to positive long-term life-altering changes. This may be due to the effects of the ayahuasca in the neurological system. And there are some studies that may show that ayahuasca may benefit health, improve psychological well-being, may help treat some addictions, anxiety. So obviously, I'm not a doctor. Like I said, I'm here to share my own experience and my journey in this podcast. If you want this, if you're looking for this, start calling in, ask the universe. So one thing that I used to hear a lot is that it will happen to you at the right time. I used to get pissed off because it's like, I want it now. And it took me about 2 years wanting until I actually was able to attend to my ceremony. So my story is about, I think 12 years ago, I was in Peru. I had a partner back then. He was Peruvian, and I lived there for many months. And my mom even came from Brazil to visit us. We went to Cusco and Machu Picchu. I really have had such an amazing time. But both my ex-partner and my mom wanted to experience ayahuasca then. And I freaked out. I was like, no way, you're not going to get me to do this. I was scared about the purging. I was scared about hallucinating. I was really scared, to be honest. And I didn't want to do it with them. That was really interesting back then. So I had the opportunity to do in the Amazon, in Peru, with like real indigenous shaman. And it wasn't the time for me. So come back, I live in Australia, years gone by. And then suddenly I'm like, I want to do this thing. I want to do this thing. I want to experience this thing. What is this thing? And I had that deep, deep calling. So like I said, for 2 years, I was asking people, everyone was like, oh, I've done it. Oh yeah. You'll find it. You'll find you. And like I said, I was getting frustrated because I can be very impatient and I want it now. And everyone had done it. And I'm like, just give me a phone number, an email address, a website. And no one would give me. It was so strange because I was getting the same vibe from people. It's like, yeah, I've done it. And then I was like, okay, how do I get there? Suddenly, a friend that I had spoken about it, she emailed me. She's like, oh, there's this ceremony, but it was far away from my house, like 10-hour drive. And it would go for 5 days during the week, Monday to Friday. And I was like, no, that's not for me. And I was thinking, I would love like an hour from my house, 3 days, like a retreat. And not long enough, maybe a few weeks after, she sent me another email in the same circle, was doing about an hour and a half from my house. It was a 3-day ceremony from Thursday to Sunday, 3-day retreat with 2 ceremonies, Thursday night and Saturday night. The price was great. Everything was great. I was like, yes. And she said, message them as soon as possible, because usually who does the ceremony always comes back, and they will give preference for those that have attended in the past. And so I remember I was really cheeky because I asked her, how do I pay for this? And I transferred them the money, and I responded the email saying, here's my receipt, it's paid for, add me to this weekend. And so again, when we talk about manifesting and calling in and being really specific to what you want, I really did that. And so I went there knowing nothing about the ceremony, nothing about the people, I didn't do research. And that's me. That's my personality. I kind of like to face things as they come, and I'm very open. And so I got there Thursday afternoon. I was really nervous. I actually listened to 2 podcasts on the way there. And that's why I've created this podcast as well, because for example, going to this ceremony and not have done any research, and then suddenly my friend said, oh, I listened to this really cool podcast, here's the link. That helped me, and I'm creating this podcast to help you, maybe if you have questions, if you're on this journey, and if you want some feedback of someone that have experience. So that's a cool thing to bring. So I drove there by myself. I got there in the afternoon. I met a couple of girls. I was staying in a shared accommodation. And then I realized that I thought the ceremony was going to be in the evening, and 1 cup of ayahuasca from maybe 8 p.m. to midnight, because I knew it would last a few hours. Then I found out that the ceremony was all through the night. So from about 8 p.m., we would go until morning, because there were 3 cups every few hours. There was an opportunity to take another cup. I only, when I got there, I found out that the lineage of this ceremony was Brazilian, even though the shaman is Australian, and most of the musicians and the crew was not from Brazil. They were singing all night, mostly Brazilian songs, some Spanish songs, some songs in different languages, but there were so many Brazilian songs, and it was so intense for me to be there. I've lived in Australia now for 16 years, and it was quite interesting as well, that part of it. And I also learned then there was a really big setting. So I think we had, I don't know, 60, 70 people. Usually, most of my friends have done in much smaller settings, like from 2 to 10 people in one room for the night. So they invite us all to wear white. We got there. It was really beautiful, because we were in Aboriginal land, and they call some Australian Aboriginal people to do the opening ceremony, and they spoke about the land. It was raining a lot that weekend, so it set the mood. I was so nervous. I had no idea what was going to happen. They obviously ask you to set your intentions. What do you want from this ceremony? I think I said I want a lot of healing from trauma, from childhood. I just said, like, help me clear anything that is not serving me. And oh my God, talking about purging and vomiting, that's what I did all night. I really think I was putting out all this stuff that I've been holding back for so long. So yeah, so we sit in circle, men to one side, women to another side, everyone wearing white. We're sitting on the floor, and you have an option to lay down. I took my first brew. The taste is absolutely horrendous. Everyone talks about it, and mine was really thick, really, really like bitter, and it stays in your throat for a long time. So I sat in my chair, and the music started, and I didn't know what was going to happen in I think it was about 20 minutes. You don't have a earphone or watch. You bring water, obviously. You might bring a notepad if you want, a pen. And I think it was about 20 minutes in, I felt my face melting. And it was interesting, because I have taken MDMA in partying scenes before, and I really could feel, I'm like, oh, I know this sensation. It's like you start to melt, and I could feel the drug, not drug, but the chemicals or the substances in my body having effect. So I think my experience with psychedelics is that it takes away all of our inhibitions, all the self-judgment, a lot of the fear, a lot of the trying to control everything. And that's the power of working with plant medicine and psychedelics. Because I remember one of the first things was, this song was so beautiful, and this song in Portuguese, and all the instruments, all the musicians, they were amazing, and the shaman singing. And this song said, like, my heart is a river or something like that. And I could feel so much inside my body. And literally I felt like my heart had this, water flowing, and so much water and fluidity. And it really hit my heart. So I remember I was crawling like a ball, and I was sobbing and crying so hard. It felt like an hour. I have no idea, obviously. I was crying so hard, and I had snot coming out of my nose, and I felt like my face was blowing up from crying. And again, I think in a normal setting in my day-to-day, I would have not just done that. There's always some self-judgment. Oh, I shouldn't be sad, or for me is like chop chop. There are things to be done. I'm very like go-getter personality. So again, in that moment, I felt so liberated to just feel what I was feeling and just cry. And I didn't have to make sense of anything. And so the bigger things that happened that night was that big release. So our body holds onto trauma. Our body keeps score. It's a really amazing book if you want to read. And again, it can be so liberating in our body and our subconscious mind. I had a really big healing encounter with my mother in that ceremony. So my mom left me with my dad when I was between 1 and 2 years old. And I always had her as my mom. Like, she didn't leave completely, but she was just overwhelmed, and it was a lot for her. She was 19 years old when I was born. So one of my intentions, I think, was to heal a lot of stuff. I don't know if I put her name on my intentions, but I had such a beautiful experience with her. And I remember it's almost not seeing feelings. It's hard to explain. It's not like I was seeing a movie or I was holding her hand, but it's everything combined, and it's the experience. I remember I was a kid and she was there, and I was like, I want you to hold my hand. And she did. And then I was actually like, I want you to hold me. And she did. And we had such a beautiful connection. And I remember saying, I forgive you, in such a way that I have never felt before. It was very visceral. It was in every cell of my body. And it was so beautiful. And I remember I said, I forgive you. And I asked her, do you forgive me? And that was quite interesting, because I think day to day in my rational mind, I wouldn't have said that, but there are levels of forgiveness, and there is hardship and there is resentment from both parties, when shit happens. So that was really beautiful to give her an opportunity to say, do you forgive me? And I think these were the main things. And also, I remember at one point, I think when I was crying a lot, and I was like prone, and I decided to lay facing up. And my flatmate back then, she has said, no matter what happened, if you need me, just call me and I'll come and pick you up. And I thought that was so nice and thoughtful. And so that memory came when I was in this setting during my ceremony, and I just felt so much love. I felt really loved. And I started seeing all these faces in front of me of all these people that I've met that have been loving to me, my coaches, my mentors, my friends, my family. And I was just receiving so much love, so much love, so much love. So you can see how this sort of experience can be so expansive and beautiful and delicious, right? So the ceremony goes all through the night. I was really tired, cried a lot. I purged a lot. My body was shaking. And I had got some coaching from my spiritual mentor, Sheila, and she said, when things get rough, just like hold yourself and say, I'm safe. And I was doing that all throughout the night when things got really rough, or I felt like, I was stripping a lot, or whatever was on my body was shaking. And I was like, this is hard. So I was, coaching myself throughout the journey and holding myself and being my best friend, which is all I talk about in my coaching business. So I was supposed to have 2-night ceremony, Thursday and Saturday night. And I did the Thursday was amazing. That in the morning they give you some soup, or like some light meal. Then we had a debrief session. We can talk about our experience. The shaman is available. Other people are available if you want to talk about and try and understand. Then we slept mostly throughout the day. We had beautiful dinner. The community is so amazing. They were playing the guitar, we're talking, there's like-minded people. Everyone is there with such open, big hearts. So I love that environment. And then what happened is that it was raining a lot throughout the weekend, and we were in this valley. So in the morning, I got woken up really early in the morning saying, we got to get out of here. It's really dangerous. It's flooding. And they're like, we're going to get stuck, because we had to live through this really windy, tiny, narrow road. And they said, if we don't leave now, we're going to be stuck here for I don't know how long. So that was a bit upsetting, because obviously I wanted to journey again. A lot of people say, or I heard that in your second journey, you go deeper, or you have cleared a lot of the past, and then you can go into your present and future. And I had a lot of things that I wanted to set the intention for my business and my present life, and calling in the one, and all of these things. Not the one, calling in my love. And so we had to leave. So I came home, and also I had told everyone I'm going to be offline. I was really excited about not being on my phone and not having technology and being in nature. And so that was disappointing as well, that I had to cut it short. But they gave me credit. So I think it will be a bit too much for me to share about my second experience as well. I might create a part 2 episode. So again, it was just showing me like we don't have control about anything. I had to completely surrender and trust that that was the best outcome for me on that weekend, and trust that when I do it again, it will be the best time for me. And again, that's how I live my life, and that's how I encourage you to see things. That's very empowering when we just believe that everything is working in our favor. I wanted to bring to today's conversation the Netflix series How to Change Your Brain that I've been watching this week, and is about psychedelics. So the first episode is about working with LSD, and the second one psilocybin mushrooms. The third one is MDMA. I haven't watched the fourth one as well, but it's so incredible, all the studies that they've been showing since, I don't know, some of them since the decades of 50s and 60s and 70s, and how this really has an effect on mental illnesses and physical illnesses. So I really recommend you to watch, to have a bit more of the studies and the science behind, and a bit more explanation about all of this. And it was really interesting because they talk about how the science actually measure if this is a mystical experience, and there is a questionnaire to do so. So everyone that has their treatments then have to complete some questions. And some of the questions were really powerful. So one of the question is, did you experience awareness of the life or a living presence, or living presence in all things? And that's yes. And when we talk about quantum physics and spirituality, we know that everything was made from the same source. Like we all energy, we all connected, even material hard things. Everything is vibrating, all the molecules are vibrating, and most of it, 99.9%, is air. So how the things become hard, I don't understand. So yeah, that was really interesting, because again, it's like there's living presence in all things. And when most people respond yes. The second question is, did you experience feelings of universal or infinite love? The answer is yes. I had so much gratitude in the morning. When I look at all the people, I had tears in my eyes for our planet, for nature, for myself, for people. So there is a connection to universal love and infinite love, 110%. Another question is, did you have a sense that the experience cannot be described adequately in words? Absolutely, 100%. So today I share with you guys in 5-10 minutes, and I was there for I don't know how long hours, 12 hours maybe. I think it was from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. And you still experience things after you leave, right? So I remember coming home and looking at some trees in my garden, and I felt like I lived in the Matrix. So I was like, this is all a dream. And so I just want to bring again some, considerations. I'm not a doctor. I'm not an expert. I'm not a shaman. I'm sharing here my very private experience. I'm very exposed at this moment. I hope you're enjoying understanding and knowing a little bit more about my journey. I hope this helps you with you understanding more about this beautiful plant medicine. And just to bring up that some people do experience having miserable ayahuasca experience. I feel so, I have so much compassion, and I feel sorry for them, because most people I know have a really beautiful experience. So there's no guarantee what you will receive. It's really what you need in the moment. The plan acts, with the spiritual world in order for your benefit. Some people mention they feel nothing, so that it's called the nada. I've heard about. Some people experience death and rebirth, so obviously that can be really confronting and really tough. And what else? Again, it's strongly recommended that ayahuasca only be taken with supervised, I would consider a very experienced shaman, a very safe space for you, that you feel well taken care of. And those who take it need to be really looked after. And yes, let me know, please reach out and let me know, have you experienced this beautiful plant? Are you thinking about it? Are you curious? Do you have any questions? I tried to bring as much information as I could to you today, and I really hope this helps. So I love you and leave you until the next episode.